The native peoples called it Skayekbi, long land water. They were hunters and farmers, Lenni Lenape, and the rich land suited them well. They lived in harmony with their land and with the first wave of European settlers. The Dutch from across the Hudson River to the north and east, and the English Quakers who crossed the Delaware River from William Penn's colony to the west.
My name is Thomas Clarke. My grandfather, Benjamin Clarke, was one of the original Quaker settlers in this area, which was to become so important to history.
His farm, established in 1695, along with the holdings of the other 5 original settlers, were all located along the course of a meandering stream, which the natives called Wopawag, or Stony Water, not 2 miles south of what would later become the college village of Princeton. This, then, became the name of the original settlement, Stony Brook, and for several generations, we flourished here in tranquility and abundance.
In 1768, upon the death of our father John, my older brother William inherited our family holdings at Stony Brook. Shortly thereafter, I purchased 200 acres from William. I built a house of my own and lived there with my sister Sarah and our enslaved servant girl Susanna. As Quakers, our lives were simple and peaceful. We were farmers who enjoyed the good fortune and blessing of living on land that was fertile and bountiful.
We lived and worshiped in community, with mutual respect and support as a cornerstone of our lives. And we recognized each individual's right to experience his or her own inner light. Believing that there is that of God in everyone, we strove to live the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These values, simplicity, equality, community, and peace, led us to our commitment to the path of nonviolence.
When I established a farm of my own, I had every expectation that we would continue the quiet lives of our forebears. And so we did. For a few years. In March of 1765, in order to defray the cost of the French and Indian War, the British Parliament passed the First Quartering Act, which required that colonists provide both lodging and provisions to British soldiers. With the return of large numbers of British troops to the colonies, came a return of the practice of British soldiers simply taking whatever they wanted from our homes and farms. This practice, originally tolerated, became so odious to many of us that it sorely tested even the committed pacifism of our Quaker community, but we remained unmoved. Still and ironically, the war that we so feared, detested, and sought to avoid came suddenly and unexpectedly to our very doorstep one cold, wintry morning. The first disturbances that shattered that wintry Sunday morning came from here, then my brother William's orchard at the far end of my fields. Seems that soldiers from the opposing armies had somehow by chance discovered each other, quickly engaged among the apple trees.
Within minutes, my fields were the scene of a pitched battle. Redcoats and colonials engaged in a chaotic melee to the horrifying sounds of musket and cannon, men yelling and screaming, horses whinnying, drums beating. It was terrifying enough, and close enough to cause me, my sister, and our Susanna to seek protective refuge in our root cellar. Here we stayed until the guns went silent, and the only sounds to be heard were the moans and cries of the wounded and dying left on the field. As George Washington's Surgeon General, Dr. Benjamin Rush, a Philadelphia physician known as well for his colonial sympathies as for his medical skills, organized us local Quakers to help provide medical care for the wounded of both sides without discrimination. In that effort, he commandeered a number of local houses to serve as makeshift hospitals.
One of those homes was mine.
For days on end, Sarah, Susanna, and others of our community worked tirelessly, washing wounds and changing dressings, and helping the surgeons in whatever ways they could to tend the wounded and comfort the dying. And there were still many of those, too many, whose wounds were so grievous that, even with the most loving care, they could not be healed.
One such, General Washington's dear friend and confidant, General Hugh Mercer, died of his wounds here, right here in my house, 9 days after the battle. I built this house as a place of peace and safety, not as an abattoir. The images of that time have haunted me through all my years hence. In time, a surprisingly short time in fact, peace returned to Stony Brook. The British Army was driven north and endured a series of defeats which augured well for the future of our upstart country. But we, never forgot the price of that future. It lies here, still, in the earth of my fields,